This week on Fade to Obsidian, we will be discussing chapters 23 to 33 of Red Rising. We recommend that you have also read to this point in the book to avoid spoilers. Please be aware that this episode contains discussions about sexual assault, violence, and death, as well as strong language. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome everybody to episode 4 of Fade to Obsidian, chapters 23 to 33. There is a lot happening this week, including the duel of the studies. We have Crescent, always my host, and Checkmate, and look at how glorious their studies are. Welcome, Checkmate.
Hello.
Do you want to explain why you are Checkmate and what you are drinking tonight?
I'll keep that checkmate part a mystery,
Okay.
because that's fun. But I'm
Yeah.
having Jameson and Coca-Cola. So,
Very
cheers.
nice. Very nice. Cheers. What do you have, Crescent?
I've got Highland Park cask strength because House Mars is in the Highlands.
Nice.
Okay.
And I have wine that has gold glitter in it, kind of. Just because it's Valentine's Day today and I wanted some wine. So that's it. Which, thank you both for joining on Valentine's Day. We
Oh,
are
not
here
a
to
problem.
we're here to
Yeah.
talk all of the failed relationships in this episode, I feel like.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's not much
Yeah.
that goes right in terms of relationships in this section of book.
It's not a romantic section.
There's a little. Oh, it's a little bit. A little bit.
A very,
A
very little
skosh.
bit
You get
that
a
goes
glimpse.
swiftly astray.
Yeah.
You get a glimpse. Yeah, I would say there's two, well,
I
no.
say there's one definite scene where I'm just like,
There's
yeah, this
one
one's.
definite scene and then one that we get maybe a hint. Maybe some foreshadowing for the next little bit.
Mm.
But let's jump right in. Do we want to go in order as the chapters lay out, or are we going to jump right in with specifics about just characters we like or anything like that?
Well, I think first of all we got to ask Checkmate. What was your
Mm.
your first point in the book that it was like, oh, it got me, and just made you want to continue
Oh,
reading?
it like hooked me
Like, where was
essentially.
your hook?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Honestly, it was very early. Since we're ahead, I can talk about this now. It's when Darrow got out of the earth, essentially. Like when he was digging himself out,
Okay.
Oh.
when he was buried. When that scene happened, was sorry, when I was going through that chapter, I was like, oh yeah, I want to see where this goes. This is neat.
Nice.
A lot of
Very
people,
nice.
I feel like, say the elevator, but I'm like,
Yeah, it's a whole mix of what everyone has said.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we everything from the very first sentence to I think all the way up to the carving.
Yeah.
Okay. I can see the carving being very, yeah, alluring.
Yes. If something
Yeah, it's
more is
very
about to happen.
yeah,
Oh, awesome.
definitely a big jump off point.
Yeah, I definitely will say another good hook was definitely when they got into the institute, like right off the bat when he first arrives, meeting all the new characters and all the new names you have to now have written down. Um, I also enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Oh,
and
I
that's
think
the
somebody else said
point.
the passage,
Oh
and
yeah.
that's
Yeah,
yeah.
yes,
That's
yeah.
way in there. I was gonna say with coming to the Institute, we meet your favorite character and the reason you're on today, Sevro. What was your first impression of Sevro?
I loved him immediately. He was this impish boy, and I'm like, I relate to that. And so, but he was also like very snarky in a way, and I enjoyed that because it came from a place of like, yeah, I just don't care. It's not because of he felt superior. It wasn't superiority by any means,
Hmm.
and so I like that a lot right off the bat.
Yeah. Do we want to? Well, on the topic of Sevro, what's he doing in these scenes? Where are we
What
at
do you
with?
think he's doing? He's which scene? Which
He's wanking off in the bushes.
thank you.
This
Yep,
is the part
exactly.
we get, the
Yeah.
wanking off in the
Yeah,
bushes.
What do you think he's doing? Yeah.
yeah.
um, so are you talking about like the start of chapter 3?
23.
23? Yeah.
I was gonna say chapter 3. He's not
Well,
in.
chapter. Yes, I study for chapter 3 now. 23. Um, I know. So at on chapter 22, they have pretty much like their first like team meeting of sorts.
Hmm.
Like I felt like where everyone was involved, including like Sevro dragging in the dead wolf that he killed with his bare hands, um, and teeth and whatnot. And so I guess after that, he just stalks around a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's definitely starts off as the absolute lone wolf
Mm-hmm.
in these chapters,
Except for he's got a full
and
wolf
then
pack behind him.
eventually,
Actually.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
I
think
believe
that's
that's
that's one of my favorite Severo quotes. Is he kills and skins the wolf, and now all of a sudden this whole wolf pack is following him, and he says to Darrow, "Don't worry, I wouldn't fit in your skin." It's like, ooh, he'd do it too.
Oh.
uh,
Yeah. He's so, I feel like, a loose cannon is what we see in this little bit. Like, you just don't know at all what he's gonna do, and he just jumps in and out of like scenes. But
hmm
I just love it. But we also see during this part when he's becoming more and more loyal to Darrow that he's just getting attached.
Well, I feel like in this section that we're going to be talking about, the dregs have a lot more focus. There's more focus on the dregs of the group, and
Mhm.
you get to see their connection with Sevro, like
Hmm.
as you progress, essentially.
Yeah, this is the first set of chapters we actually get the Howler name.
Hmm
Um,
Yeah.
that's exciting.
Very exciting.
Oh yeah,
And then the
Yeah,
rest of us all
we don't have to
adopted.
censor talking about the Howlers.
Oh,
true.
so much
So hard.
easier. So
So
much
hard.
easier. You know. Well, on that note, t-shirts we're wearing, I've got the out of print Howler Castle Mars, which says Howlers on the back. Hold on. Slow rotation. Can you see it?
Nice, nice.
Yeah.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah.
I've got the Pegasus Legion limited edition acid wash and my
I
gold
have.
hat again.
Oh, I like that hat, by the way. I really do. It reminds me of I can't remember who owns it. Maybe it's Pop Top. But it's the gray sigil one.
Oh, I
Yes,
think that's Snowflake.
that's Snowflake who has that.
Yeah, I
It
think
looks
so.
slick. Looks really slick. I like it.
That's the one he was showing off where he was naked.
Oh, yes. Of
As it
course.
happens.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
No.
I
Also got
actually had a House Mars shirt I
my
was
nut to
going
butt
to.
mug.
Yep.
Oh,
The
nut the
net.
butt. Nut the
Let's
butt.
see. Limited edition uh Valentine's Day from Lit Escalades, which I love.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we can't talk about the actual quote.
If you
No.
know, you know. Yeah.
No.
If
We
you know,
also
you know.
technically can't talk about your shirt, so I'll be blacking out the whole time. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
I
Oh.
had his shirt I had ready. It was a House Mars shirt, and pretty much what happened was I spilled all over it. So so now I'm just wearing this flannel.
I like
Despair.
it. The flannel very much fits the Highland
Yep.
motif that
Nice
we're going
tartan.
for. Yeah.
Perhaps I should have done a tavern background then.
Ooh, yes. Yes. No, I like the dueling studies that you guys have going here. I like it. Yeah, so what else we have? So Sevro relationship-wise, like, we know he's getting connected to Darrow, and not much else. Well, he's getting the Dregs along with him, but
Hmm.
Yeah, I think it also talks a little bit about him having a soft spot for Quinn.
mm,
Um,
Yeah,
don't we all?
he
Who doesn't?
true,
True
true.
fact. Yeah, it talks about how he's always got a kind word for her. She's the only one that doesn't call him Goblin.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
that's
that's
sweet.
when he's
I
making it
wish.
kind of obvious.
hmm
Yeah, I
That that
kind of wish
was
that they'd have gone that way, but
no. That is on the survey we did, which we won't talk about much today because there's not really any real relationship portion of this, but there was a lot of people that the question of who should be canon as a relationship, quite a few people said Sevro and Quinn. So,
I would actually hop in on that. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. A lot said, and so one of the other questions was who is the one true pairing, the OTP, which is supposed to be romantic. I don't know if whether or not people took it romantically or just paired people. Sevro and his knives was my personal favorite.
yep.
And quite a few people said Sevro and Darrow just as the bromance that we're gonna see a little
Yeah,
bit in this section, and
that is the true bromance.
that's the yeah.
There was
Yeah,
someone on Instagram
Darrow and
who,
Cassius is very second
Yeah.
fiddle to Darrow
Yeah.
and Severo.
Yeah.
true.
It's the way it should
Uh,
be.
Mhm.
Severo's so loyal.
I remember there's this thing on Instagram I saw, and someone was telling us was posting, tell us what your favorite like relationship is in the, like a book series, and I was like, you know what, okay, and I put Severo and Darrow because why not? And I got more backlash than I expected. I was just having fun with it, but people were upset with me.
People take these way too seriously.
Yeah, yeah. And I was like, calm down. If you know, you know. Stop it.
Yeah. It's gonna be fine. We're all gonna make it through.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Quinn, and we mentioned Cassius, so we are seeing them together in this portion.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it truly
Yeah,
outlines romantically, but we're pretty. It's
yeah, it's
it's
pretty early
very
days, but
heavily.
yeah, it
Yeah.
does.
Yeah.
Um,
I was going to say it's closer towards the end of this section that we're
Mhm.
going through, where you can kind of see that splitting off a little bit with Quinn and Cassius.
Mhm.
I'm making a reference to I believe it was that team meeting they had before apologies.
Yeah.
That yeah, yeah, and I believe in that it was they were throwing words back and forth, and I think it involved Cassius being rather rude, and she's like, "Hey, come on."
Yeah. You gotta put
Another
him in
reason
his
to
place.
oh it's I believe Cassius is being a total dickhead to Severo, and
yeah,
Quinn's like, hey,
yeah,
fuck off.
yeah.
Yeah. Good on her, Quinn. Good on
Yeah,
you.
good
Another
for Quinn.
reason. Yeah,
Yeah. Love her. Yeah, so we get them a little bit, and then I know we're totally jumping around here, but I just figured we will
yeah,
cover the relationships first, and then we can go back around to the not relationships and the guy who is terrible to women in this part. But before that, Roke and Leah, we see them, and
yeah,
then this is the what I refer to as the true fate to Obsidian, that they have the take her take her somewhere that means something to you, kiss her, and we see that they go off, fade to Obsidian, and the next thing we know, Roke's gone, Leah's coming back screaming, and then Leah dies. Like, if there is not a more hardcore fade to Obsidian, fade to black, not just the kiss, but then a full
Kiss and
death.
kill.
Kiss
Yep.
and kill. What else? Oh, that's the big one in this. I mean, that is
Are
literally the end of this, but yeah.
yeah, it's pretty. I mean, with Leah, I after going through the books, I went back and I was just like, oh Leah, like so with her character, it's very interesting because there's the development early on up until that scene of despair. But I remember
Mm,
reading that and having to go back and reread. Like I was like, what?
yeah. Yeah, it's
Oh,
like
he was
unclear like
hiding.
what.
Yeah.
Yeah, cuz she just kind of comes back screaming, right? And
Mm-hmm.
like yeah.
Yeah.
And
I
then they go
always
off.
I always kind of thought that it's like, did Antonia like trick her into going to get Darrow?
Mm-hmm.
But like, I don't think that Leah would ever have
No.
like fucked Darrow over like that. Like she
No.
was too pure. Like maybe she actually was tricked. Um, but
Yeah, I think almost Antonia just is smart enough to know what the next steps would be and knew like you
yeah,
get them out of the picture or you get Roke out of the picture, Leah's going to freak out. Who is she going to go to? Um
yeah, I think that's
Yeah.
way more likely.
yeah.
Or perhaps they are saying, okay, we won't kill Roke if you go do this for us. Go
Well,
get
she
Darrow.
thinks he's fallen in a hole or something,
Yeah,
isn't
I know,
it?
and I think that's a
falls
part
down a
that's strange to
crevasse or
me.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
And
she's like
perhaps he did,
he's
and
stuck in a crevice and it's like, "Oh, okay."
huh, maybe it's a by chance thing that Antonio was just stalking, waiting for him to leave alone. And with that small
Yeah.
group, you could have just followed him out there. I don't know. I just
Yeah.
work here.
We do have an out of context quote. Buttercup saying, uh, when it comes to Rogue, to not stand
Because you will be his weak spot.
in battle, so to not go anywhere romantic with Rogue. And I feel like, yeah, that sets a tone. Rogue,
Yeah, I
man.
know. I agree with that.
Yeah. Well, and the other out of context quote we had, which again will be dubbed in, is I believe Hurricane saying,
And Antonia, we don't talk about her enough.
And Antonia, who
Yeah.
is quite literally the definition of pulling the trigger too quickly.
Antonia, I feel like the fandom doesn't talk about as much. That
Hmm.
like she is true rage and strong-willed for sure. She's a little insane.
It is House
Yeah,
Mars.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's yeah. I think you're right that she really doesn't get talked about, which is really surprising because like she's the worst.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
like even even just in this book, but like can't
Yeah.
can't get too
I can't.
spoily here, but like
Yeah,
she
yeah.
continues to be the worst.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, she's a force to be reckoned with when she wants her way.
Yeah,
Yeah. Crazy.
yeah, she's extremely cunning, um,
You
but
can
just
definitely see the
doesn't use it
cunningness.
for good
Yeah.
at all.
Because right off the bat, she seems kind of like she has the cards close to her chest a little bit.
Hmm.
Well, yeah, and
Yeah.
like uh, I think even it's either right at the beginning of this set of chapters or in the last at the very end of the last set. She talks about when Darrow and Cassius are kind of, neck and neck for being Primus. And she's like, well, anybody could be Primus. Like, any of you could be Primus. Why are you following these two?
Yeah.
And it kind of just
Hmm.
like breaks their momentum just big time. Ooh,
Being Politico. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because at this point, so we've got really three different groups and then Sevro off being because you get Titus as well, being his
Yeah.
attempt of a leader.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so you've got, obviously Cassius and Darrow, and then Titus and his band of miscreants, and Antonia.
Yeah. Yeah, his band of miscreants indeed, which if we're going to talk Fade to the Obsidian, is the opposite of how you treat a woman, is everything Titus
Oh my
does.
god.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. Not
Yeah, we don't do any of that. Just don't.
just everything he does, do the opposite.
Just
Yes.
not.
There was a lot of discussion yesterday about comparing Titus to Darrow, because we learn in these chapters that Titus was a red, and
Yep.
the interesting thing for me is that, well, I think it's based on there's a woman in his life. We don't know if it's a sister or if it's a romantic partner, that
Mm-hmm.
something happened to her. I think it's pretty much assumed she was sexually assaulted. And so he carries that rage in his heart so much that he then carries it out against all these golds. And it's very much a him versus the world in comparison to Darrow. Has a bit of that hate, but not to that capacity.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the biggest difference with Titus's, catalyst, let's call her, and Darrow, is with Titus, obviously he sees her get abused, and I guess we don't know if she dies, but obviously that wasn't her choice. But when Io dies, like that's 100% her making the choice to try and kick something off.
Yeah.
And so Darrow is, I don't know if he's a little more accepting of it, a little less hateful towards all golds rather than just the one.
Yeah.
Yeah, Titus seems to have more trauma. I would call
Yeah,
that.
I would say that's probably accurate.
I also think
Ugh,
that Darrow has the ability to name the person who did it. Like, he can say it's Nero, and he can
mm-hmm.
Yeah,
fully
he can
focus on
focus
that.
on one person.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that is
Versus
true.
the Titus situation, it's that many, which I assume are grays. I don't even think it's probably golds, because we know how rare it is that the golds go into the mine. So why would it be a gold? And if, like, the golds have the pinks, so why would they go after a red anyway? But
Yeah.
so that hate of society is the grays, and then you assume, well, if it's the grays, then it's this coppers, and then the silvers and the golds, and it kind of works its way up. So that hate of everybody, in comparison to Darrow, really can say it's that man. Like, that's the one who did it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um
And it's tough to entirely talk about him because that's still spoiling some bits. But the person who finds him, I think, influences him quite a bit as well. Like obviously Darrow's got Dancer and Mateo, and they're a little bit more, reserved.
mhm.
They know what the fight's about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas Titus doesn't have much for like a real emotional support system, let's say.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and then picks up kind of the people. I mean, and it's easy in House Mars. They're all technically full of rage, but Darrow seems
Mm-hmm.
to lean towards the people that can at least control the majority of their rage, rather than Titus seeks out those who are fine following. And that's the interesting thing, is we assume that everyone else in House Mars is a born gold. And there is this band that is totally fine with what he does in comparison to
Mhm.
and you can tell me if this is spoiler, but I think at this point we hear that Mustang is disgusted with what they're doing.
Oh yeah, because that
That
yes.
happens
portion
before
happens,
Titus
yeah.
is killed.
Yes.
That's how they get it, yeah.
Yeah. So you know that the other golds are like, you can't do this to golds. And there is a conversation between Darrow and Mustang of like, well, what if they were reds? Um, but at the same time, like, it's like interesting that some of them are totally fine with, yeah, that's fine. We've made slaves of golds. How far can we push this? In comparison to the like, no, at the end of the day, we are all still golds.
Yeah. Um, I think I would say that Titus has a significantly darker breed of rage than
Mm-hmm.
Darrow does. Um, like obviously, Darrow is very full of rage, um, talking about how his uh, upper outliers of rage metrics, right,
Yeah.
in his institute testing. Um, but it's a little more calculating
Mm-hmm.
rather than Titus is just like, he talks about him covering his hair in dirt and not even wanting to be associated with being gold, um and then just obviously all this brutal shit.
I really
Yeah.
wonder how the carving was for him, in terms of, like, like, on the emotional end of things, because it showed that he really didn't like himself, and, yeah, getting carved like that, changing who you are, like, what you are is I feel like that would drive him crazy,
Yeah.
and maybe kinda did.
Yeah, I think you're right, with part of the problem being that Titus was turned into what he hates. And it actually does talk about that a little bit with like when it's talking about him having the grease in his hair or the dirt all in his hair. Um, see if I can
I got a
find it
cat.
here.
Very nice cat.
Cat attacking the microphone.
Is that your Valentine?
This is my Valentine. This is best of
Yeah.
times. Hold on, she's knocking over Pierce. Can't do that. I'm gonna pour and get some red bubbles going this time.
Oh,
See,
nice.
the red doesn't work as well.
Still
I
looks
don't
neat.
know. It's defective.
So uh, the quote is, his hair is greasy and dark with dirt, almost as though he's tried to black out the gold. He seems to like the dirt. So
Mm-hmm.
it's definitely like I hate what I've become,
Mhm.
even though it's something that is more or less necessary,
Yeah.
for the mission.
Yeah.
And then
How do you
obviously we find out, like, Darrow's confused as to why, and then we find out, you know, he's a red,
Yep.
and then all of a sudden it's right.
did you guys figure out during that scene when you first? I don't know if you can remember this or not, but when you first read it, did you kind of see it coming, like right before he revealed it?
Yeah, I think I I was still a little surprised, but
Mm-hmm.
I think when he says sling blade
Mm.
is when I got it,
Yeah. No.
and
Same.
then he says bloody damn, and it's
Yeah.
like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. For me, it was just that how he was talking about the girl, of like what kind of happened, that I was like, this is not a gold. A gold wouldn't do this.
Yeah.
That's when it hit me of like, I don't know if I necessarily went full red, but it was like there's something off here. There's
Mhm.
something, because
Very
a
off. Yeah.
gold's not gonna, you know, and yeah. Yeah. But yeah, so then that's a huge turning point kind of in everything of how the house is operating, how other houses see them, because at that point we know Minerva,
Yep, Minerva knows about it. I assume that
Ceres,
Ceres knows about it.
yeah. Do we know if House Diana?
I'm gonna look.
Because they come in at this point.
Yeah, I don't recall.
Mm-hmm. But
Which
and
is
it got to.
I'm not sure if they.
yeah. So actually, House Diana doesn't come in until chapter 30.
Oh. Oh yeah, that is that
chapter
section.
30
But
is
I was gonna
actually
be
called.
like.
Yeah, chapter 30 is actually called House Diana.
Oh. Yeah. I mean, House
So
Diana
that
has their
settles that.
own problems. So.
Yeah. Fucking Tactus.
Fucking Tactus.
Yeah. No, that's
I was gonna say you're
Oh.
blinded right now.
that hurt. Yeah.
Blinded by the light.
I don't know how I'm gonna
Trying to
wipe
get
all
us
this
copyright
It was a
strike here.
Google.
Yeah.
Google browser.
Yeah. So it's, we definitely see Mustang mad about it and Minerva in general.
Yeah. Which is understandable.
100%.
Yeah. Yep.
Yep.
So speaking of Mustang and Minerva, we actually get the creation of the Mustang name,
the low Mustang,
in this set of chapters.
I love that.
And I think she actually said, I can't remember if she says low Mars or if she says low Reaper.
I think she says
I think
Mars.
you said Mars. Yeah,
I think
I'm pretty sure it's Mars.
I think so. Chapter 26 is called Mustang, so that must be where they meet her.
And it pretty much takes on the rest of the book. Like, I don't think we really ever hear the name Virginia said.
Yeah, it actually does get
Not
said
until...
when they take Minerva,
Mhm.
and they ask for the password, and then they ask where's Virginia and the Raiders, and Daryl kind of goes, Mustang? Like, is that who that is?
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a great question. Who knows? Who knows where she is? Hiding in a bush somewhere.
Yeah. Quite literally at one point.
Yes, that's
Taking the Sevro approach.
Taking the Sevro approach, which is the only reason she survives, I would say.
That and Darrow's intervention.
Well, that's what I mean. Like, but she's there quietly, and Darrow sees her, and that's kind of this moment where, he says, like, I can't give her up, or else we know what Titus will do.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Vixen. Yeah, sorry, Vixen.
At that point,
because
he's
saying
he's talking about Vixus is like wants to put a bridle on the mare.
Yes.
It's like, we're just not gonna allow that.
Yeah. Yeah, so we fully see that's kind of Darrow's real point against the other houses of he won't go all the way is how I would view that. Like,
Well,
he
he's
doesn't want
genuinely
it
caring
that much.
about more than just color, there's humanity at that point, and it really shows. Because he's like, I'm not gonna let that happen to her. Like, and so I like to think that's a great point where it just shows like he genuinely cares about people, not the color.
Yep. Yeah.
So while I was getting introduced to Mustang, we get introduced to Mustang's Titan.
Yeah.
In this set of chapters, we get Pax.
Someone's got to yell it.
Sweet Daddy Pax.
Pax Atelematus!
I think you just overpeaked your microphone.
Yeah. It was just you screaming.
Either that or your sound just died.
I was holding back there.
Yeah, we're just not gonna do that to people's ears.
No, don't worry
Pax
about it.
au
Say it.
telemanas.
Yeah, yeah.
I love him from the start. I just love even kind of the introduction. You can see how loyal he is to Mustang. That she just kind of is like,
Yeah,
go, like,
yeah,
chill
Like
for
how
a
Daryl
yeah. It
second,
just
and
responds.
he's
it
just
takes a
like,
word, and he's just like,
okay, yeah,
Like how when
I
Daryl
love
sees
how he's
just
just like constantly screaming his own name.
oh yeah.
it's so good. It's so
Like
good.
nobody is ever gonna forget this man.
Instant fan favorite, I would say.
Yeah,
Instant fan favorite. Yeah.
It's hard to forget his name when he keeps yelling it.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. He's so
And
good.
then him and Darrow have their first fight.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, that's a rough one for both of them.
Mm-hmm.
What does he say? Isn't it like he's fighting a bear that keeps screaming his own name or something like that?
Yeah.
I thought that was
Yeah,
so funny.
something
It
like
was something.
that.
It's something like that. I thought it was funny. I was like, nice.
Yeah.
Gave me a genuine chuckle.
That's another part that I think Darrow says, like, we're going to the death, and like Mustang's like rolls her eyes and is like, till yield. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
no. Back
Calm down.
off.
You need to. You're up here. You need to bring it
Yeah, we need you
down.
to just
Yeah. Yeah, it's Mustang trots up with their standard and says something about girls never challenging each other to stupid duels. Correct.
Yeah.
And the duel is to yielding, Pax says impatiently. And to the death, I correct. It doesn't matter, I'm just screwing with him at this point. It's like,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, because we get the
and that's the
battle
dead horse
and then
moment
we get the
too.
dead horse. Like that is I think peak Sevro, peak
Oh yeah, that's
Tactus.
peak Howler
Tactus
shit.
is
Oh,
in
peak
Yeah.
howler.
one
Yeah, honestly.
as they're in the dead horses, using them as sleeping bags. Yeah.
I feel like it's a
Yeah,
defining moment.
Tactus and Sevro share a horse belly.
Hmm
Yeah.
Yeah.
How big are these horses? It's got to be
Uh,
Clydesdales if you
Big
can get the
enough.
two of them in there.
I was gonna say they are gold, so that's a good question.
It's have horses like evolved as humans evolved? They must have.
I mean, there are carvers. I mean,
Yeah, that's true. That's
Yeah.
true. The carvers. Yeah,
not
but yeah, you
everything on
get.
I
Mars
mean,
is
like,
very
I mean,
natural.
horses are like almost entirely torso, if you will.
Yeah, but like I feel like this is disgusting to think about. Oh my god, a modern day horse. I could probably fit in its stomach, but I don't think I could fit in its stomach with somebody else. And like, yeah, we know Sevro's on the smaller side, but I don't think Tactus is.
He,
I mean, he's
I
definitely
think
not
Cactus
Darrow size.
is he's definitely more. I like to think
He's
he's more scrawny than
yeah,
anything.
they call him
Toned.
like lean and rangy, I think,
Yes,
is
yes,
the
that
Okay,
is
so
word they
is
correct.
he
use.
curled around Sevro in it? Like, I don't think you could put
Maybe
two
they're spooning.
humans side
Yeah,
by
they're
side.
definitely spooning. Yeah,
Yeah, whispering sweet words into each other's ears.
yeah, like
Wow.
knives and blood.
Yes, I can't wait to get out of here. uh,
Wow. Yeah.
I do
Uh,
enjoy that scene quite a bit.
it is a good
You
one. It
burn the
is.
grass, sure.
Yeah, that's it. Where like Mustang thinks she's outsmarted them of like we're burning all the grass. Like, listen for the
Yes,
screams,
aha!
and
I've
it's like,
gotten you. Yeah,
all right, have fun. You do that. And they do have House Diana people in the cloaks, don't they? Like hiding because she
yeah.
asks like,
They've got
"Where's
all
your little
the
shadow
small
or
members,
whatever?"
all the
Yeah,
Mhm.
small members of Diana wearing wearing wolf cloaks.
yeah. It's like the one
I think.
time Mustang gets outsmarted.
Yeah, I was
Yeah,
literally just gonna say, like, this
yeah.
is the
This
one
is
time
it.
that Darrow's got the upper hand on Mustang.
Never again. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Actually, I've never thought of that. That is, yeah.
That
Yeah.
for the first time, Mars is actually smarter than Minerva for once. Yeah.
Shit. I bet that was funny as a proctor.
Yeah. Well, the proctors are all standing around watching, aren't they? As they always
Mhm.
are.
Yeah, they've
Drinking
got
their
like their
wine.
floating table of charcuterie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, must be nice.
I wish
I
I had a floating table of
I
charcuterie.
know, to just hang out and watch.
Lunchables.
I like someone yesterday equated them really to the gods, and if you look at like the Romans, like they just float above them at all times, being like, what are these humans doing down here? Like they really kind of act like the Roman gods, and giveth and taketh away, and they get the chance of who they're gonna save and who not. Like they really do have that
I
more
definitely get that
power.
vibe.
Yeah.
What's interesting to me is with all their power is, I mean, they kind of go into it a little bit, but I'm surprised they didn't stop Titus from
Mm,
doing some of the stuff he did. And I know they talk about like they want to see how they would enact justice and whatnot. But I'm still surprised they let that happen. But then it is the Gold Society, so
yeah.
take it as you will.
Yeah, I was gonna say like this. It can't be the first time that this has happened.
Oh no, because
It's
what
like
is it, 300,
they
500
talk
years?
they talk about like 542nd class of the Institute or something.
Yeah, yeah.
That's maybe a little bit of a spoiler that may not get talked about, but that's a inconsequential.
It's
Now you know.
You're allowed to
Uh,
spoil just a little bit.
Yeah,
Just a
thanks,
little.
Hurricane.
yeah.
Um, yeah, like it's not the first time, and
No.
they've got the medbots for the real serious stuff. And Titus actually talks about like trying to bash heads in, and the medbots always being so fast.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which also on a parallel with Darrow, is it seems like the medbots are never fast enough when Darrow
Yeah.
is the one in need.
Hmm.
Like the medbots don't come for Leah; they leave
No.
her. So he
Well,
has no illusion that she could be alive.
I think it's just because with the Leah situation, it was such a quick final blow. Like, I don't think even like the proctors would be like, oh, she's just gonna kill a member of her own house. You know, I think as a proctor, you wouldn't, I guess, expect that to happen at all. But then again, this is what the 500 whatever. Like, yeah, I don't know. It is strange, but I agree with you. For some reason, they're not fast enough with him.
Yeah. There's
Yeah,
multiple occasions that they don't show up. Which is interesting. I was gonna
yeah. Well, and
say something
they don't
about
help Rogue
Leah, but
either.
it's a spoiler. Well, that's it. But it's a spoiler for later. Of I was just gonna say how fast it happens. That I wonder if there's just cases that they know, and I won't say why or how they know
Yeah.
vitals, but um, that just it's like there's no point. So we'll just let this play out rather than.
Mm.
But in other cases, 100%, they could have sent them. Could have
Yeah,
Yeah.
like
sent them.
definitely like the medbots could have gone for Rogue, like
There
Yeah.
is
100%.
one thing I've been wanting to talk about, which is when Titus puts the lady in front of the gates, like
Oh,
tied, like
yeah,
hogtied.
Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah. That's
that was a hard scene for me personally. I was like, wow,
Yeah.
yeah, it's
what?
pretty hardcore,
Yeah.
Yeah, this whole section is very
traumatic.
difficult. Yes, in so
Mm-hmm.
many different ways that we don't really get in any of the, well, spoilers for later, but in this book, it is really kind of this part that you get the sexual assault, the a lot of kind of the big gore. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
Oh yeah.
well, we haven't even talked about the big betrayal.
Oh yeah, the
So talk about the proctors playing gods of
yeah.
why give Cassius the hollow?
Yeah, that's
I don't. Can we
we
really
can't
get
we
into that
can't
too much?
Oh, we
actually
can't.
Yeah,
talk
I was
about
thinking. I was like,
why,
I don't think I can really get into that.
No, but we
I'm
but
restricting
know.
myself so hard right now.
But we know that in
yeah,
this
that's
part
the
that he
problem.
gets the cat. He gets it,
Hmm.
Yeah,
and that
Lilith comes and gives him the hollow cube.
yeah.
Hmm.
Uh, but I just more meant like they're playing that much into the game.
Yeah, because I believe it's actually in in that chapter where Cassius ends up stabbing Darrow
Hmm.
that uh the jackal got a hollow, I snort. His proctor gave it to him then. Guess that means the game is rigged. Suppose it
Hmm.
doesn't matter to you that the jackal is the archgovernor's son and that he's manipulating you into getting rid of me.
Yeah.
And I know that breaks Cassius's ankles just a little bit, but I think the rage aspect of him kind of comes out. The reason he's in Mars kind of comes out on
Hmm.
at that scene
Yeah.
is because yeah, he
Yeah.
hears that and he kind of second guesses himself just for like a second though.
Yeah, it says he flinches after Darrow says that. It's like,
Hmm.
oh shit, you got him.
Yeah,
But
like
then it's like he
oh.
doubles down.
Yeah.
Yeah. Turning off the ion setting.
Oh, that's so brutal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Despair. I
Just
am I remember when they said it and like I was like, oh yeah, it wouldn't cauterize. Oh, oh,
yeah.
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 And then he twists the blade as he pulls it out.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah.
he's out to make Darrow suffer.
Yeah.
Personal.
Like
Yeah.
it's a killing wound, theoretically. Um,
Where does it
but
say directly where he stabs him?
it says it stabs him in the gut.
In the gut. Okay, because yeah, that is typically a slow death. Yeah. This
Yeah.
most if you know about being stabbed, it's a slow death. If you don't, now you do.
I only know in our flag means death, they tell you there's a spot, and if they get stabbed there, it just misses all the vital organs, and you'll be okay. But I don't necessarily know if that's what happened in this situation.
I didn't know that was a thing.
Should watch our
Yeah.
flag means
It
death.
says with a little flick of his wrist to move my sword sideways, he steps in and drives his ion blade through my armor into my belly.
Okay. My neighbors are being loud.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is such a brutal like because you gotta understand like with their relationship, I feel like it's very personal. Um, time to talk about relationships. It's very personal, and so I don't know. I feel like that's definitely why when he has that twist in there, you can kind of just feel it as a reader.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely very visceral.
Yeah. I forget who brought it up about how the fact that there's actually 2 betrayals for Cassius.
That
Oh,
was me.
all right, Crescent, then you talk about how there's 2 betrayals. It's all
Um,
blurring together.
oh, how did Oh, yes. So he's got 2 betrayals, like right rapid fire, both
Mhm.
by Darrow. Um, he betrays him by sending Sevro to try and steal Hollow from him, and then immediately is like, "Why the fuck would he do that?"
Yeah.
And then watches the Hollow, and then all of a sudden it's like, "Oh fuck, that's why." Um, and so it's just like that it's a 1-2 punch,
Mhm.
and it's just well, there's no coming back from that one.
I remember how annoying it was not knowing what was on that hollow until you
Mhm.
reach that chapter because you're sitting there
Mhm.
like, what?
Yeah.
I
It's like a
think
Christmas present.
Yeah, I think on my first read through, I was like, "Oh, that's what it is." And then as soon as he's like, I send Severo to steal it or whatever," it's like, "Oh yeah."
I thought there
That's
was
it
no
for
way.
sure.
I thought there was no. I was like, no way the proctors would get that involved.
Mm. Yeah, because at that point we know that they're watching all the time and they're coming. But and I think at this point we know that if you win things, you can ask for, right? Like we
Yeah, you
see
get
when
Oh
your
they take
yeah,
bounties or whatever.
Minerva, and it's like, all right, Fitchener's like, what do you want? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Speaking of taking Minerva, and a
Hmm.
little bit lighter note,
yeah.
how about dealing June? Stealing Minerva's cook.
That is
That's
one of my
pretty funny.
favorite scenes, I think,
Like
is
that's
them going into Minerva. Yeah, we've got the cook.
yeah, that's top quality comedy. It's like they're running through the keep and they ask someone if they're June and she says no. And they keep going. And then Darrow just yells June at somebody and it's like she reacts and turns into my stun pike. It's like, oh, got her.
Yep. We've got
And
the cook.
and then he's carrying her out on his shoulder and Cassius goes like, who the fuck is this? And he's like, it's their cook.
It's so good. But this is directly after, doesn't he axe into the war table Mars? So it's like, you know who did it. Like, Sevro goes in through the sewage system, I think. Isn't that same part?
Uh
Remember?
yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, I believe
like
so. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
that whole sequence just has comedy all over it.
yeah.
Um, it's so good.
What other
And then
relationships are there? in this?
Darrow in
Didn't
his hands.
Oh my God! Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. There's there's one moment I'm specifically talking about where Darrow goes into the uh into Castle Mars to try and basically steal Vixus from Titus, and then Titus is there, and Darrow basically just ends up completely ruining Vixus. It says he throws a big haymaker right into Vixus's neck and cartwheels him off his feet and then hits him 3 or 4 more times before he hits the ground. And he's just like, what the fuck am I?
uh,
And he's like, he's worried that he's killed Vixus. And then it turns out obviously that he didn't, but
Yeah, he mentioned that like if his form was just a little bit better, he probably could have broken his neck with that first
mhm.
punch.
yeah, it's something like, I don't know if it was the gravity or if it was his footing was a little more solid.
I thought it was his form. I don't know why. Just
I'll
guess
find
right.
it.
Oh, I assumed you would. Yeah, no, that scene is definitely very when he's like, I can smell it on you. I'm just like, oh no. That's fair though, because you gotta think that makes a lot of sense, and you don't think of it until like they actually like point it out, because you're like, oh yeah, that is really smelly. Yeah. You ever go crazy when you like when you come home from like a camping trip, like you're
Yeah.
out for like a few days in the woods, and you're like, oh,
Yeah,
that's
it
me.
says so it says has had his legs been anchored better, the first strike might have snapped his neck in half.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah. So
Mm,
I feel like he's probably just like, he's being Vix's cocky asshole, like just kind of,
Yeah.
not worried, so he's not in like a fighting stance or anything like that.
Yeah. So you take the step back or whatever. Yep.
Hmm.
Uh,
Or just like standing kind of like leaned on one foot.
mhm. The other relationship I was going to bring up, which was a real world relationship, is that Tamara, who is Primus of House Diana is named after Pierce's real life best friend. And she ends up
Ooh,
dying.
that's so mean.
Right? He's like, don't worry,
And sport.
I wrote you in my book. And then
Yeah,
the belief
read
is
and
that
find out.
Tactus cut the saddle is the
Yes.
guess is that we know the saddle was cut and they think it was Tactus. But yeah, and she gets trampled. So that is I believe one of the few people in the books that are named after real world people. And he killed her. She still gives him a cake every year on his birthday that always has whatever book
I
is
saw
coming
that.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it was this year was the
Is it
Lightbringer
is
one.
it a dick cake filled with woodpeckers?
Yeah, right?
Because I feel like it should be.
It should be. No, this year was the Lightbringer cake. It came from her.
Oh, that's that one. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough.
But yeah, so there you go. There's a relationship for you. Is don't be friends with Pierce. He'll kill you in books.
Yeah.
You know what? Worth it.
Yeah.
Pierce, you want a friend to kill in books? I got you.
Not me. Keep me alive, please. No.
Yeah. So there you go. There's a fun Easter egg for you.
I love how that
Take her with
that
all her
that's the
knowledge.
lore behind that. Yeah.
It's because I follow her on Instagram.
Right on. Oh.
I think she is also the person who found Eo, his dog, and
Oh,
named
really?
Eo Eo. Yes.
Oh, that's wholesome.
So that's why he has Eo. Yeah, anyway. There's your creepy fangirl fact of the day, if you will.
Now I can be a creepy fanboy.
The more you know.
The more you know. Where's the star?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm trying to think what else goes down in all of this. It feels like so much, but then
There's a lot of content. There's the part where they even talk about how Cassius starts to tell Darrow, like, "Oh, you're my brother," and
right.
Him and
that's
Rogue.
some deep stuff right there.
Yeah.
Because it's like, it's like, oh,
Yeah,
saucy.
this is
You're
awkward.
Yeah, yeah.
Ooh, actually, I killed your brother. Yeah.
I like how so we can kind of see the darker side of Darrow a little bit, where he kind of just pawns the blame off a little bit
Mm-hmm.
in this section of the book. He doesn't directly he doesn't he's intentional about it in my opinion, but he's
Oh
just
yes,
yeah
where
where he's
he shifts Julian's murder onto Titus. He leads
Yes.
Cassius in the
exactly.
direction that he seems to want to go.
Yeah.
Hmm. And I was like, that's some juicy stuff, but what are you doing, bro?
Yeah.
Yep. You gotta keep your allies somehow, and you know he's in it too deep at that point to reveal who it is. So you might as well shift the blame.
I mean,
No.
it's not a terrible plan. It's just morally, I was surprised he went with it, but it really was his only out because once once he's dead, you don't have to worry about anyone really asking questions about Julian's death anymore after that.
Yeah.
And I get it, but I'm like, "Hmm, okay."
Well, he said it made. I mean, and Darrow would never have thought that there was hollows being made of stuff that would get
Oh
thrown
yeah,
back in
no.
his face. So it was a
Yeah.
good plan until it's like, no, we're gonna still reveal you. Like,
Would you have done it that way? I think that's an interesting question.
oh, I 100% would
Yeah.
have. Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
Like, I
I'm
don't want to
sorry,
go.
I missed that. I was trying to find the quote about Cassius
Oh
being led
no.
No,
Yeah.
would
think
you
about
have lied to
Titus.
Cassius in the same manner? Like, would
Yeah.
you have led
Ooh,
him to believe it was Titus? Because at that time, we
yep,
don't think that it's gonna go anywhere. He's dead, he's gone.
yep,
Great.
Hmm.
yep. I think yes, for sure.
Yeah.
Like that's solid lie.
Yeah. He doesn't think it's going to blow up in his face. We have no reason to think that the proctors would interfere that much. So why not? What do you have to lose? And then later we
Yeah.
found out a lot.
Yeah, it turns out.
Quite a bit.
Yeah.
You think it would have
Dignity,
changed?
several liters of blood.
Do you think it would have changed the outcome if he went about a different manner, or do you think it still would have been, stabby stab?
So the only other thing I can think of to do is right off the top, come out of the passage and say like, "Hey, bro, I killed your bro."
Mhm.
That's the only other thing I can think of is you could come out strong with it because they're like he's gonna be mad, but it's like, hey, we all had to do this, and then they're not gonna form that alliance, which Darrow needed, but at least like he's gonna hold a grudge against you, but probably not in that same manner. Like you don't get the
Yeah.
back-to-back betrayals. You don't get him it blowing up into such a well, it's not even a big betrayal. It's like, hey, I had to do this thing. So it would change the whole book because Cassius is then not going to partner with him, but at least he's going to be mad, but I don't think he's going to react in the same capacity he did. I mean, he might have because he could have just
Yeah, I
still
think.
declared the blood feud, but
Yeah.
Yeah, I think.
Um.
I think the amplitude of the reaction probably wouldn't be quite as high.
yeah.
Because at that point, yeah, they've been friendly a little bit, but they're not
Brothers in
tight.
arms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
you
exactly.
gotta you understand that Sevro and Darrow are kind of tight at this point because he actually asks him to take that hollow,
Hmm.
Yep.
and
Oh yeah, they're full.
yeah.
They're like
Yeah.
this. And no, that wasn't the crux. For
I
all of
was
you
Yeah.
gonna
wondering.
say
Yeah. I was
you're
gonna. Yeah. Uh, I love that. That's on. It's on. I think that's technically chapter 22, but it's when Severo pretty much just flips off Antonia.
Yeah.
I love it. The attitude. I love it.
yeah. Yeah, I don't think there's really any other way for Darrow to have done it. Like you either got to do it right off the top before you become close with the guy, or
Yeah. Or
hold
or
out
lean
and
into the
hope it
lie.
never. Yeah, and hold out and like hope that it never
Well,
comes about.
it's a big gamble for Severo not to tell sorry, for Darrow not to tell Severo that to take the hollow from him because he's just betting on that Cassius will trust him, and they've only known each
Hmm.
other for like a month or two at this point, right?
Yeah.
And so I mean I think I would have done the same thing.
Yeah. But Severo actually knows at that point that Darrow killed Julian.
Yeah.
So it's not like
Yep,
he's
he says
worried
it.
about. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
because they talk about um
Oh,
Severo killing Priam,
yeah. I was
and
gonna
Darrow
say.
says, "Am I on target?" And he's like, "Yep." And you slagged Julian. Am I on target? And we never speak about it again.
But how did Severo figure that out?
Oh, because Severo.
Yeah,
I
he's
think
in
he
he's
probably
in
did the
he's in
math of as well
yeah.
of like
Yeah.
who's the bottom, who's the top
Well,
here, and they're not gonna
he's
put Cassius against if they were gonna put Cassius against Julian, which would have been fascinating.
Whoa,
Um,
that would have been a good one.
right? Uh,
I was
Cassius
actually thinking
isn't
about
gonna
that at
be
work
like
last week.
out. Yeah, Cassius is gonna he's gonna be a
Could you
real
imagine
sad
the
boy.
balls though to have a brother against a brother in a passage? What does that what would that tell you about that specific gold who came out of that scenario alive? That's pretty metal.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a solid hypothetical.
Yeah.
That's whew.
All right. Everybody who writes, alternate universe fan fiction, do it up.
AO3. We're counting on you for this
Thrasher.
one.
So yeah, I definitely would have, like I said, like had Severo steal the hollow and pass the hypotheticals and whatnot, but there's so much dirty stuff that could happen when it comes to the because they say how it's a rigged system, to an extent. I don't know. I think it is neat to think about, like, as a parent. Like, I don't have kids, so I don't really strongly understand this. But as a parent, understanding like your kid could easily die if they're a weakling, and not preparing them properly, it seems it's interesting.
Mhm. I think they didn't ever expect Julian to go to the Institute.
They
No,
expect him
because
to
it's
actually
Like
be
supposed
that
to
was
accepted.
that was
be
Yeah,
never that was
it's
never
supposed to be
something
the
that was
top
supposed
and
to
the
happen. And
bottom
then
kind of a thing. They probably figured he was somewhere in the middle. You'll end up being a pixie.
yeah,
They'll
he
be
would go
fine.
on a Politico or Pixie or something. But
Yeah. Yeah. So for them though, probably the moment they got that letter, it's like, oh shit, we know what's gonna go down.
yeah, because Cassius was surprised himself, and he's like, "What?"
Yeah. Yeah.
and it said he was like Julian was so excited.
Well, apparently he
Um,
was better at cravat than his brother, but
well,
um,
that's what Julian says. Cassius says that he like that Julian or that Cassius is better. But Cassius thinks Julian is better.
yeah, which is an interesting
So
dynamic. Um,
I
I
think
think
that's
we
just like you idolize your siblings in such a capacity, and I mean we can't get too far into it because we don't know
yeah.
too much about their family, but I think
We had a
they're
conversation in Den
raised,
about this.
yeah, they're raised in such a capacity of they think they're the best. Like we know they're one of the strongest families, and they're just, why question it?
The strongest, I
yeah,
believe they have revealed at this point that the Bellonas are the second strongest family on
Hmm.
Mars. Yeah.
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah. So you're just raised to believe that you're going to be the best, right? Like, yeah. But yeah, very sad.
Well, about that. Uh,
poor Julian.
yeah, no.
Poor Julian. That's my forever stance. Poor Julian.
I
Poor
think I like
Julian.
to think most people would
I
agree with
hope
you.
that that's everyone's
I
Yeah,
stance, but
Can
like
you
I
imagine
gotta be somebody there's not.
there has
you
to be one
find the
person.
one person who's like, I'm glad Julian's dead. And I
Yeah,
wish Titus had survived. And the hot takes. We want to hear
yeah.
everybody's
This.
really
Yeah,
hot take.
please, if you have that hot take, get at us. We'll have you on here.
It's like when
Yeah,
I
yeah.
put in the thing of for this episode of like, hey, we want whoever's the most passionate for Sevro in one way or another, and I put something like, nobody's coming forward saying they hate Sevro. Like,
Yeah,
even
nobody
Yeah, I
is
was
if
gonna say,
you're
doing
who would come
thinking
anything.
it,
forward?
even
Yeah,
if you're thinking it, you're keeping that to yourself, or else the entire fandom is coming after you. Like,
honestly, it feels to me. Actually, I can't even get into that. Don't worry about it.
no, we'll
Um,
just
yeah. So there's so much I want to talk about.
Yeah, that's the tough part of being
Mm,
being constrained by the read along.
yeah.
We're gonna go through this again when we can
yeah.
all talk about
Come
everything.
September, it's gonna be you say what you want. We'll go through the
Yeah, it
books
is gonna be
again and just
no
free for
holds
all.
barred.
Like,
Spoilers,
oh, and
all the
in this scene, in
things.
that scene, in this book, in
Yeah,
that book,
and like
blah
it's
blah
gonna take us a
blah.
lot longer to go through them because we're gonna be like glued to one chapter each time, being like, okay, but the foreshadowing for this and this and this and this and this.
Yes. Yeah.
Yep.
We'll do the books chapter by chapter.
So,
Preston, you're in it for
you
the long
guys,
haul.
you guys decided to do this podcast over like, and you wanted someone who was really passionate about Severo, but why
Mhm.
for these chapters specifically? Do you mind me asking?
I think because
Because this
this.
is like when we really get our first real look at Severo. Like, yeah,
Okay.
we get him in the shuttle after the testing, just like a little bit, and then we get the chapter and a half or two chapters after the passage, when they're like out doing their run and then their fight with Ceres in the grass, and like Severo and Fitchner interacting, and that's like just a small amount. But
Hmm.
then from 23 to 33 we actually like get quite a bit of Sevro and Darrow interacting.
You get the development between like that
Yeah,
that
that's
romance starting.
yeah. Our thought was just like that is kind of the most prevalent relationship in this set of chapters.
I like to think
Or
that's
like the one that gets the most growth anyway, or like the
really
most content.
okay.
Yeah, it's like next week we're talking Darrow and Mustang. Somewhat
I was gonna
unsurprisingly.
because I love the little man so much, but I feel like this the second half of 23 through 33, I feel like is heavily set when it's setting up the explosion of emotions that is Darrow and Cassius at the end of these chapters, and I feel like if anything, it really embodies what they could be until Cassius does his thing.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, we definitely could have
That's really
talked
my take on these
Cassius on this
chapters.
one, but we did Cassius last episode, and there's only
Oh, that is
listen,
fair.
it's Valentine's Day. But I don't need to talk
That
about
nobody needs
Cassius
a
that
dolphin
much.
on Valentine's Day.
Nobody wants
No,
a
no.
dolphin on Valentine's Day.
He's
It's
not
for
there for the
true
love.
love. It's
Yeah,
for
Yes,
true
you
love.
want the ride or die on Valentine's Day,
that
Yeah.
is
and
true.
Sevro is the ride or die.
Sevro is the ride or die.
I like what you guys are saying.
Yeah.
You're picking up what we're screaming down.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Good.
That was really my question for you guys because I was genuinely curious about that. I was
Yeah.
like, really? Okay. But it makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah, because like we can't wait too long to talk about Sevro. Like some of the other characters, they're introduced, but we feel like there's not enough there in this book to talk about them. We get a lot more development out of them in the next book or two.
If they're in there, that is.
We're not naming names.
Nope.
No.
Exactly.
Nobody's naming names. They're just there. Or not.
It's true.
That is true.
Yeah. And then the next chapter chunk, I won't name names, even though Crescent already did of who it'll be, and I think if you're listening to this, chances are you are well aware of the couple we will be focusing on. But I think that's
Yes.
such a heavy focus for those ones that then Severo kind of gets not pushed aside, but not as focused as we see the relationship do. So that it's like, okay, we're gonna do if he survives.
Talking about Severo in the next section is a little spoily for today.
Yeah, I was gonna say I just can't talk about it. I'm just shutting up right now.
Yeah.
Like I don't know how to word this.
It's fine.
We can spoil just a little bit.
Just a little bit. We know he exists.
Yes, he exists in the next chapters, guys.
Yeah.
He's literally out there somewhere.
Yeah.
Wanking off in the
Doing
bushes.
Severo things.
Can we talk about the moment where Cassius and Darrow both look at each other and like, we thought you were wanking off in the bushes.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. Yeah. Let me find the actual quote here.
Okay.
Because doesn't he
Yeah, I
throw
remember
back
it
in their
being very
face?
funny. I don't remember. I remember it was like, what do you think I was? What do you think I was doing?
So
Wanking off in the bushes?
Yeah, it's in chapter 26, Mustang. And then Severo shrugs. We'll take Minerva's standard. And wait, Cassius says, "You know how to do that?" Severo snorts. What do you think I've been doing this whole time, you silky turd? Wanking off in the bushes. Cassius and I look at each other. Kind of, I say. Yeah, actually.
Yeah.
Cassius agrees. And I just want to acknowledge, like, what a deadly insult that is, you silky turd. Like, what?
Yeah.
It's a very strange. It's a very strange insult.
Yeah.
But I
It's
mean
so
that
good.
it fits Severo. He's just everything that
It
comes out of
does.
his
It
mouth
does.
absolutely.
is like,
Just
where did you think of that
It's a bit
language?
uncanny. Yeah.
yeah. Like
It breaks your ankles a bit.
when he's talking with Julian in the shuttle. It's like who's like who birthed you, like, or who? What is it?
Who raised you? I was
Yeah,
raised
who
by
raised you? And
wolves.
it's like I was raised by wolves after your mother's cooch spat me out. It's like,
Yeah.
Oof.
what?
It's like,
Props to Pierce.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, just in general, but like for that too. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely enjoy the character for his whimsical comebacks. I would like to say
Yeah,
he's
for
a
sure.
spicy lad.
he's very creative. You could say that. Yeah.
Yep, that is very true.
There's so much more I want to talk about. I like the character a lot, but there's so much more I want to talk about with him.
We'll have you back on when we can talk spoiler free or
Right.
spoilers
Right now.
inclusive.
Right now,
Yeah,
I'm just like.
it's getting the pulsing vein.
Right.
Trying to
With that
hold
guy
back.
in.
You're doing really good though.
Yeah, I'm trying my best.
This is going to be a
Yeah,
lot
we're
less
not.
editing than last
Yeah, I
week.
was gonna say we're making Skipper's job way easier than last week.
Yeah. I remember you talking about the editing. I was like, cheers to you.
Yeah, you'll see tomorrow. It's
We had
Herculean
to.
effort.
We also had
It's
to get
a
you out
Pax
on a
out
date.
Telemanus effort.
And there's 3 versions that went up for last week.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, you did 3?
Yeah, because this week,
The spoiler or like the Howler cut,
the
the
regular,
spoiler free.
and then it was asked that if I do audio, so this will also, going forward, there will always be 2
Oh
cuts,
yes,
that some of the stuff just gets cut because it's like you can't see
yeah,
that I'm
the
like,
uncut.
yeah, yeah. Well, it's not even that. It's like when we're like, oh, look at the dog or look at the cat, like. We can say
Yeah,
it, but what the Spotify listeners don't
the
hear.
audio cut. Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah.
If I didn't have this green screen going on through Discord, I'd show you my dog, but he's sleeping over there right now.
Cute.
He's it looks like a wolf. It's really cute.
Nice.
we love a good wolf.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Speaking of, I was looking into going to that wolf sanctuary that's near me.
really?
Yeah, it's like an hour away. I'm gonna be I'm gonna be
it.
literally driving past it on Friday. So
Get some
anybody
good
that wants to
pictures.
come visit Crescent,
I'm still waiting for my
we'll
passport.
go to a
Actually,
wolf sanctuary.
Yeah. I'm excited. I'm gonna come visit just for that.
that's in Saskatchewan.
Yep.
Really?
I'm sorry. What? How did you say it?
I'm sorry. I am very sorry. Saskatchewan.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, you got
There
it.
we go. Oh, so I had so much pressure. I was like,
I
oh god,
know.
the source is asking me.
Yeah.
Crescent
I have
probably didn't
the
have
one.
to do it, but for me, it was our bonus word on every spelling test in like grade 3. But I assume it wouldn't be for Crescent because he's just gotta know it. It
Nope.
can't be the bonus word. For us, it's like, congrats,
Nope.
you're gonna learn yet again how to spell this.
I met some friends in that area when I was in high school through Xbox and whatnot, and so that's the only reason I know like how to actually say it, because they got like that. I believe there's a place called Moose Jaw, I believe,
Yeah.
Yep.
and
Yep.
I remember as a young man, I was like, "Your town's called Moose Jaw, really?" And so I just remembered Saskatchewan after that. Saskatchewan, like what I said earlier, and so.
Saskatchewan. Yeah.
I can't talk today. But yeah,
The
that's the
Jameson.
first time I heard that word. I was like, "What?"
Excuse you. Gesundheit.
Bless. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think we've pretty much covered it. If we're all good. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for joining us, Checkmate. This was
Yeah. It's
fabulous.
No, I
been
appreciate you guys asking.
fantastic having
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, we'll definitely bring you back when we can talk more, either spoiler free or if Sevro makes it into other books.
Dun dun dun.
If he does, you should definitely bring me back.
Yes.
Yeah.
This conversation has been very fun. I really enjoyed talking about this today.
Yeah. Well, thanks. And thanks for everybody listening. We love you all. Make sure you join the Howler's Den so that you can be a part of some of these conversations and other shenanigans that go down.
Yes, absolutely. There's never a dull moment.
There's never a dull moment. Especially keep in mind that like the three of us are somehow all moderators. Like they gave us power.
Yeah.
So that's the level you're dealing with here.
I'm still surprised for myself.
Yeah, you can yell at Salem in next week's comments.
Yeah. How'd you give them power? Yeah, next
Yeah.
week we are back with Salem, who runs the whole den and is known as a Mustang cosplayer. So it's gonna be good. It's gonna be good.
That's the perfect time to have her on, honestly.
We've been waiting.
That's
Yeah,
our thought.
We've
yeah.
been waiting.
You've been planning for this.
We might have her. We might have her for every book.
Mhm. If Mustang lives into every book.
Yes, if she.
I feel like we have to just. That's it.
All right. Have a great night, everybody. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us on Fade to Obsidian. Yeah, I think we're done here. Like, I think we're done. Like with the
Alright.
actual recording.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we'll do a
So
sign off.
yeah, my recording's off. Fuck! I forgot how to sign off.
Put it back on.
Okay, and we're back.
Good.